I said no. 2 words. That was all it took for my own daughter to try to have me declared mentally incompetent and locked away in a nursing home. I am 67 years old. I spent 41 years as a civil engineer for the state of Ohio, designing bridges that thousands of people drive across every single day without ever thinking about who made sure those bridges would not collapse under their feet. I retired with a full pension, a paid-off house in a quiet neighborhood outside of Columbus, and enough savings to live comfortably until the day I die. I earned every penny of it. I worked overtime. I skipped vacations. I brown-bagged my lunch for 4 decades while my colleagues went out to restaurants. My wife passed away 6 years ago. Breast cancer. She fought it for 3 years, and I was by her side every single day until the end. After she was gone, I thought the hardest part of my life was behind me. I was wrong. My daughter is my only child. Her name is Megan. She was the light of our lives, the reason my wife and I worked so hard for so long. We paid for her college education in full. We helped her with the down payment on her first car. We gave her a beautiful wedding when she married Derek 12 years ago. Derek seemed like a good man at first. He was charming. He had a firm handshake. He looked me in the eye when he talked to me. He worked as a sales manager for a medical equipment company, and he made decent money. I thought my daughter had chosen well, but over the years, I started to notice things. Derek's tastes got more expensive. The cars got bigger. The vacations got fancier. The house they bought 5 years ago was twice the size of anything they needed. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a pool, a 3-car garage. I did not say anything because it was not my place to tell grown adults how to spend their money. Then the calls started. The first call came on a Tuesday evening in March of last year. I was sitting in my living room, reading a book about the Civil War, when my phone rang. It was Megan. "Dad," she said, "we need to talk about something important." I put down my book. "What is it?" "Sweetheart, Derek has an opportunity. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He wants to open his own medical equipment distribution company. He has contacts. He has clients lined up. He just needs the startup capital." I listened. I did not interrupt. "The thing is, Dad," she continued, "we need a co-signer for the business loan. The bank wants someone with assets, someone with good credit, someone like you." "How much?" I asked. $650,000. I let the number hang in the air for a moment. $650,000. That was more than my entire retirement savings. "Megan," I said carefully, "that is a lot of money." "We know, Dad. But this is a sure thing. Derek has been planning this for years. He knows the industry inside and out. We will pay back every penny. You will never have to actually pay anything. We just need your signature." I took a deep breath. "Sweetheart, I love you. I would do almost anything for you. But I cannot co-sign a loan for that amount of money. If something goes wrong, I could lose everything. My house, my savings, everything your mother and I worked our whole lives for." There was silence on the other end of the line. "Dad," she said, her voice suddenly cold, "you have plenty of money. You are sitting in that house all alone, with more than enough to last 3 lifetimes. We are your family. We are asking for help. This is what family does." I felt something twist in my chest. This was not the daughter I raised. This was not the little girl who used to sit on my lap and ask me to read her bedtime stories. "The answer is no," I said. "I am sorry." She hung up without saying goodbye. I did not hear from her for 2 weeks. I called several times. I left messages. No response. Then Derek called. His voice was different. Gone was the charm. Gone was the friendliness. He spoke to me like I was an obstacle to be removed. "Listen," he said. "Megan is upset. Really upset. You hurt her. She thinks you do not love her anymore." "That is not true," I said. "Then prove it. Sign the papers. We will bring them over this weekend. Just sign them, and everything goes back to normal." "Derek," I said, "I have already given my answer. It is not going to change." He laughed. It was an ugly sound. You know what, old man? You are going to regret this. You are going to regret this more than you know. He hung up. 3 days later, I received a certified letter from an attorney. I opened it with shaking hands. It was a petition for emergency guardianship. My daughter and her husband were asking the court to declare me mentally incompetent and to appoint themselves as my legal guardians. They claimed I was suffering from dementia. They claimed I was unable to manage my own affairs. They claimed I was a danger to myself. I read the document 3 times to make sure I was understanding it correctly. My own daughter was trying to take away my freedom because I would not sign a loan application. The petition included an affidavit from Derek. In it, he described conversations we had never had. He described incidents that never happened. He claimed I had gotten lost driving to their house, that I had forgotten their names, that I had left the stove on and nearly started a fire. Every single word was a lie. Attached to the petition was a letter from a doctor I had never met, Dr. Lawrence Whitman. He claimed to have examined me and concluded that I was suffering from moderate to severe cognitive decline. I had never been examined by anyone. I had never met Dr. Lawrence Whitman. I had never set foot in his office. My hands were trembling as I put down the papers. Not from fear, from rage. I called my regular doctor that afternoon. Dr. Patterson had been my physician for over 20 years. I explained the situation and asked if he could see me right away. I was in his office by 4 o'clock that same day. He examined me thoroughly. He gave me every cognitive test in the book. He checked my reflexes, my memory, my reasoning, my awareness. "Mr. Hartley," he said when he was finished, "you are one of the sharpest 67-year-olds I have ever examined. There is absolutely nothing wrong with your cognitive function. Whoever wrote that letter was either mistaken or lying. Can you put that in writing?" I asked. He did. He wrote a detailed medical report documenting his findings. He noted that he had been my physician for over 2 decades and had never observed any signs of mental decline. Armed with his report, I called an attorney. My wife and I had used a lawyer named Richard Brennan for our estate planning years ago. He was retired now, but he referred me to his former partner, a woman named Catherine Oakes. She specialized in elder law. I met with Catherine the next morning. I showed her the petition, the fake affidavit, the fraudulent medical letter. She studied the documents carefully. Her expression grew increasingly grim. "Mr. Hartley," she said finally, "this is elder abuse. What your daughter and son-in-law are attempting to do is a felony. That medical letter is fraud. If we can prove that Dr. Whitman never examined you, both he and your son-in-law could face criminal charges." "What do we do?" I asked. "First, we respond to the petition. We submit your actual medical records and Dr. Patterson's report. We make it clear that you are fully competent and that this petition is based on lies. Second, we investigate Dr. Whitman. Third, we consider filing a countersuit." I nodded. "Do whatever needs to be done." The court hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. I barely slept during those 3 weeks. Every night, I lay awake thinking about my daughter. Where had I gone wrong? How had she become this person? I thought about my wife. I was grateful she was not alive to see this. It would have destroyed her. Catherine worked tirelessly on my case. She subpoenaed records from Dr. Whitman's office. What she found was damning. Dr. Whitman had never examined me. He had never even spoken to me. Derek had paid him $4,000 to write a fraudulent medical evaluation. Catherine found the payment records. She found emails between Derek and Dr. Whitman discussing the arrangement. "This is worse than I thought," Catherine told me. "Your son-in-law bribed a doctor to file a false medical report. Dr. Whitman could lose his license. Derek could go to prison." On the day of the hearing, I put on my best suit. It was the same suit I had worn to my wife's funeral. I had not worn it since. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Megan and Derek were already there when I arrived. They sat on one side with their attorney, a young man who looked barely old enough to shave. Megan would not look at me. She stared straight ahead, her face expressionless. Derek glared at me, with undisguised contempt. I sat down next to Catherine. The judge was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. Judge Patricia Moreno. She reviewed the documents in front of her, then looked up. We are here today to consider an emergency petition for guardianship, filed by Megan and Derek Thornton on behalf of Richard Hartley. She turned to their attorney. Counsel, would you like to present your case? Their attorney stood up. He made his arguments. He claimed I was confused, disoriented, incapable of managing my own affairs. He referenced Derek's affidavit. He referenced Dr. Whitman's letter. Catherine let him finish, without interruption. Then it was her turn. She stood slowly. Your Honor, everything opposing counsel has just told you is a lie. The young attorney's mouth fell open. Catherine presented Dr. Patterson's report. She presented my medical records from the past 20 years. She presented the subpoenaed documents from Dr. Whitman's office. She presented the payment records. She presented the emails. Dr. Whitman never examined Mr. Hartley, Catherine said. He has never met Mr. Hartley. He was paid $4,000 by Derek Thornton to produce a fraudulent medical evaluation. I have the proof right here. She handed the documents to the judge. Judge Moreno reviewed them in silence. Her expression grew darker. With every page she turned. Finally, she looked up at Derek. Mr. Thornton, she said, do you understand that what has been alleged here constitutes criminal fraud? Do you understand that you could face prosecution for filing a false affidavit, bribing a licensed physician, and attempting to commit elder abuse? Derek went pale. He looked at his attorney for help. His attorney looked like he wanted to disappear. I want to hear from Mr. Hartley, the judge said. She turned to me. Mr. Hartley, please approach. I stood and walked to the front of the courtroom. Mr. Hartley, the judge said, I have reviewed your medical records. I have reviewed Dr. Patterson's evaluation. There is no evidence whatsoever that you suffer from any cognitive impairment. In fact, you appear to be in excellent mental health for a man of any age. She paused. I have one question for you, she continued. Why do you believe your daughter and son-in-law filed this petition? I took a moment to gather my thoughts. Your Honor, I said, 3 weeks ago, my daughter asked me to co-sign a business loan for $650,000. I said no. I said no because signing that loan would have put my entire life savings at risk. I said no because it was not a reasonable thing to ask. And because I said no, they decided to try to take away my freedom and my autonomy. They decided to have me declared mentally incompetent so they could control my assets and force me to do what they wanted. I looked at Megan. I love my daughter, I said. I have loved her every day of her life. But what she has done here is unforgivable. She has lied to this court. She has tried to steal my independence. She has treated me not as her father, but as an ATM machine with a heartbeat. My voice cracked. I spent 41 years building bridges. I spent my whole life trying to build something solid, something that would last. I thought I had built that with my family. I was wrong. The courtroom was silent. Judge Moreno nodded slowly. She turned back to face the room. This petition is denied, she said. Not only is it denied, but I am referring this matter to the district attorney's office for criminal investigation. Mr. Thornton, I strongly suggest you retain a criminal defense attorney. Dr. Whitman's medical license will also be reviewed by the state medical board. She gathered her papers. Furthermore, she added, I am granting Mr. Hartley a protective order against Derek and Megan Thornton. They are not to contact him, approach him, or come within 500 feet of his residence. This order will remain in effect for 1 year. She looked at Megan for the first time. Mrs. Thornton, she said, you should be ashamed of yourself. This man is your father. He gave you everything. And this is how you repay him? Megan said nothing. She still would not look at me. Court is adjourned, the judge said. I stood there for a moment, not moving. Catherine put her hand on my arm. We won, she said softly. It is over. But it did not feel like winning. Outside the courthouse, the sun was shining. It was a beautiful spring day. Birds were singing. Flowers were blooming. I felt nothing. I walked to my car alone. I sat behind the wheel for a long time without starting the engine. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was my grandson, Tyler. He was 10 years old. I had not spoken to him since this whole mess started. Grandpa? His voice was small and confused. Mom says we cannot see you anymore. She says you are a bad person. But I do not believe her. Grandpa, I do not believe her. Tyler, I said, listen to me. I love you very much. I will always love you. No matter what anyone tells you, remember that. I miss you, Grandpa. I miss you too, buddy. There was noise in the background. Megan's voice, sharp and angry. Tyler, who are you talking to? Give me that phone right now. The line went dead. I sat there in the parking lot for another hour. Then I started the car and drove home. The criminal investigation proceeded over the following months. Derek was charged with fraud, filing a false affidavit, and attempted elder abuse. Dr. Whitman lost his medical license and was charged as an accessory. Derek took a plea deal. He got 3 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and a felony on his record. His career in medical equipment sales was over. No company would hire someone with a fraud conviction. Dr. Whitman was not so lucky. He refused to take a plea. He went to trial. He was convicted and sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. Megan was never charged. The prosecutor determined that Derek had orchestrated everything, and that Megan's involvement could not be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. I do not know if that is true. I do not know how much she knew and how much she chose to ignore. I do not know if it matters anymore. Their big house went on the market 6 months later. The business loan they had been so desperate for never happened. Without that loan, without Derek's income, they could not afford the mortgage payments. I heard from a neighbor that they moved into an apartment on the other side of town. I heard that Megan got a job as a receptionist at a dentist's office. I heard that Derek is delivering pizzas. I take no pleasure in their suffering. I wish I did. It might make this easier. Every week, I write a letter to Tyler. I tell him about my week. I tell him about the books I am reading, the walks I am taking, the birds I see in my backyard. I tell him I love him. I tell him I am thinking of him. I have written 47 letters so far. I do not know if he receives them. I do not know if Megan lets him read them. I do not know if she throws them away unopened. I send them anyway. Last month, I visited my wife's grave. I brought flowers, just like I always do. Pink roses. They were her favorite. I sat down on the bench beside her headstone and I told her everything. I told her about the petition, about the hearing, about Derek and Megan and Tyler, about the letters I write every week to a grandson who may never read them. I told her I was sorry. I told her I tried to raise our daughter right. I told her I did not know where I went wrong. The wind rustled through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell rang. I like to think she heard me. I like to think she understood. 3 days ago, something unexpected happened. I was sitting on my front porch, drinking my morning coffee, when a car pulled up in front of my house. I did not recognize it. It was an older model, a little beaten up, with a dent in the rear bumper. The driver's door opened. A woman got out. It was Megan. She looked different. Older. Tired. The designer clothes were gone. She was wearing jeans and a plain sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She stood at the end of my driveway, not moving. She did not come any closer. We looked at each other across the distance. "Dad," she said. I did not respond. "I know you probably do not want to see me," she continued. "I know I do not deserve to be here. I know what I did was unforgivable." She took a shaky breath. "I came to tell you that I am sorry. I am so sorry. I do not know what happened to me. I do not know how I became that person. Derek, he had this way of making everything seem reasonable, seem necessary. He made me believe that you owed us. that you were being selfish, that we were entitled to your money because we were family. Tears were streaming down her face now, but that is no excuse. There is no excuse. You were my father. You gave me everything. You loved me, my whole life, and I repaid you by trying to destroy you. She wiped her eyes. I am not asking for forgiveness. I know I do not deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I see what I did now. I see how wrong it was, and I will carry that shame for the rest of my life. She stood there, waiting. I took a sip of my coffee. It had gone cold. Megan, I said finally, I spent 41 years building bridges. It was my job to make sure that structures that carry thousands of people every day do not collapse. Do you know what the most important part of a bridge is? She shook her head. Trust, I said. The people who drive across my bridges trust that they are safe. They trust that the engineer who designed them knew what he was doing. They trust that the materials are solid. The calculations are correct. The foundations are strong. I set down my coffee cup. You destroyed that trust, Megan. You did not just hurt me. You did not just lie to me. You tried to take away my freedom. You tried to lock me away like a criminal. You were willing to steal everything I had. Everything your mother and I spent our entire lives building. Just because I said no to a loan. She flinched. A bridge can be rebuilt, I continued. But some foundations, once they crack, they never hold weight the same way again. I stood up. I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate the apology. But I cannot forgive you. Not today. Maybe not ever. I do not know if I have it in me anymore. Dad, she said. Go home, Megan. I turned and walked back inside my house. I closed the door behind me. I did not look back. I stood in my empty living room for a long time. My wife's photograph was on the mantel, smiling at me from behind the glass. I walked over and picked it up. I did my best, I told her. I did my best. Ended. The Munder 10. 1 Strabel 7. Tonight, I will write another letter to Tyler. I will tell him about the first day of summer coming up. I will tell him about the cardinal that has been visiting my bird feeder every morning. I will tell him that I love him. I do not know if he will ever read it, but I will keep sending them anyway. Some bridges take a lifetime to rebuild. Some bridges never get rebuilt at all. And some bridges, the ones worth building, are built one letter at a time, one day at a time, one small act of hope at a time. I am 67 years old. I have a paid-off house. I have my health. I have my integrity. I have 47 letters in the mail. And one more to write tonight. That will have to be enough.